Hi, in this video I will talk about crows and grudge and revenge. And as you are familiar with the Quran, the animal was mentioned in a Quran. God sent a crow to dig a hole in the ground with its claws. The crow dragged a dead crow into the hole and covered it with dirt. He imitated the crow and buried his brother and said, "Woe to me!" So this sentence is important. Have I failed to be like this crow and hide the body of my brother? It's like the crow is doing it. Crow in the Quran and digging body. I saw a crow dragging the body of another crow off the road. Was it a sad act of desperation to save his friend, or was it just hungry? So, it shows that it is possible. So this and another thing. So we already knew this, and it was mentioned one of the Quran miracles. So this is if you think you can hold a grudge, consider the crow. The brainy bird carry big chips on their shoulders, scientist says. And some people will become subjects of their are made victims of mistaken identity. Miss Joyce is far from alone in fearing the wrath of the crow. A website started 8 years ago by Jim Larry, a Vancouver resident from Canada, has since received more than 8,000 reports of crow attacks in the leafy city, where crows are relatively abundant, and such encounters stretch well beyond the Pacific Northwest. A Los Angeles resident, Neil Dave, described crows attacking his house, slamming their beak against his glass door to the point where he was afraid it would shatter. Jim Rue, an artist in Maine, said crows destroyed the wiper blades of dozens of cars in the parking lot of his senior living apartment complex. Nothing seemed to dissuade them. Renowned for their intelligence, crows can mimic human speech, use tools, and gather for what seemed to be funeral rites. When a member of their murder, as group of crow are known, dies or is killed, they can identify and remember faces even among large crows. And another important thing is that in the Quran we see that this is the story, and that person that killing brother, intent to kill brother. Other person already knew that it is sin. From the beginning they know that. They identify it as a sin. So it is very important thing. Because logically speaking, God should tell this basic thing in the beginning. It's not like some other sins maybe not that clear, but that should be mentioned. And evolutionarily speaking, it is better to mention it in the beginning, so it can be an important rule. So let's read our article further. They also tenaciously hold grudges. When a murder of crows singles out a person as dangerous, this wrath can be alarming and can be passed along beyond an individual crow's lifespan of up to a dozen or years, creating multi-generational grudges. It's interesting. So here in the Quran story, so woe to me, have I failed to be like this crow and hide the body of my brother. There is still some generational thing is going on. And this animal was mentioned 2 times. Let's read the Quran further. So he said, "Oh, what to me? Have I failed to be like this crow and hide the body of my brother?" And he became regretful. So this is mentioned 2 times, but we cannot see. So 2 times. So anyway, Gene Carter, a computer specialist in Seattle, was followed by crows that lurked outside the windows for a better part of a year. The crows would stare at me in the kitchen, he said in an interview. If I got up and moved around the house, they would find any place where they could perch and scream at me. If I walked out of my car, they would dive bomb me. They would get within an inch of my head. Mr. Carter knows precisely what set off the attacks. One day in his backyard, he saw crows encroaching on Robin's nest and launched a rake into the air. But he never imagined that Crow's revenge would last so long. The mob learned to identify the bus he took on his way from home work, Mr. Carter said. They were waiting for me at the bus stop every single day. He said, my house was 3 or 4 blocks away and they would dive bomb me all the way home. Harassment stopped only when he moved. Experts say the majority of crow attacks occur in the spring and early summer, when protective parents are watching over their young and defending their nest from possible encroachers, but in other cases the reason for an attack is not so clear. So doctor believes he has no answer to the question around 17 years. So it is based on the experiment. It's a scientific article. So we can directly check the scientific article actually. He began in 2006 on the Washington campus. Captured 7 crows with a net while wearing that ogre mask. The birds were soon set free, but Miss Doctor says the episode traumatized the crows and other members of the murder that witnessed it, so that they were witness. To test how long the campus birds would hold on to their grudge, Doctor and his research assistant would put on the ogre mask periodically and walk around campus, recording how many crows let out aggressive caws, a sound that expressed scolding. The number of scolding crows corresponded around 7 years into the experiment, when around half of the crows he encountered cawed vociferously, just like this. Over the next decade, according to data Dr. Marzluff collected, but not yet published, the numbers of grudge-holding crows are gradually tapered off. In this example, it's like the crow is doing it on purpose. He's claiming it. That person, I couldn't be like this, and God sent it to teach him. It's interesting, and I think in the Quran we see this. We can more like see the rest of the article. During his September walk, Doctor recorded in his notebook that he had encountered 16 crows, and for the first time since the experiment began, they all ignored him. Christian Blum, a cognitive scientist specializing in animal behavior, conducted a similar multi-year experiment partly inspired by his work using ravens, which are cousins to crows in the forbid family. They are also excellent grudge holders. So the ravens scolded the dangerous mask even without any dead raven present, with much higher frequency than they did in the control, and the scolding lasted for the duration of the experiment, suggesting that ravens' grudges were also very long-lasting. So this experiment on the Washington campus also had a control mask, and the way the crows interacted with it, scolding the wrong mask, might offer hints as to what happened to fair-haired Miss Joyce and the other blonde woman in Vancouver. So control was mask of Dick Cheney, the former vice president. Although it was scolded far fewer times than the ogre mask, there were still with a small number of that. They'd also react, which interpreted as a potential susceptibility to mistaking identity. This resonates for Leanne Peoples, a blonde-haired science writer in Seattle. Around a decade ago, she was jogging around like near her home when a crow dive-bombed her. She felt a sharp peck on the top of her head. As she continued her run, she saw a man with long blonde ponytail running after the kicking ducks and the other birds at the water's edge. The man seems to be suffering a mental health episode, and Miss Peoples wondered if the crow attacked her had a mistaking for her. Mistaking identity or not, the crow attack persisted. On the same day, she was packed near the lake. So, this is the end of the... This is a very lengthy work. So you can read it. So a decade ago, Jill Bennett, a radio host in Vancouver, was relentlessly attacked by crows as she was walking her dog. And this is... So first thing is, they do it for revenge, maybe. That is interesting to the story because the story was based on jealousy, and they buried the dead body. This is also true. So it shows that it confirms the Quran's methodology, Quran's way of telling the truth. And because this is not a metaphor here. It's not a metaphor here, and it is exactly telling you. And another thing is, it is mentioned in the Quran in the middle of the story and telling a story of Adam's sons. And it is a previous story. It's interesting because that sin is lasting, and it is one of the potential first rules. Because you cannot just say talk about interest rates, right? Like so many years ago. There's no interest rate. There's no money maybe at the beginning. They only use some other tools. But the killing was mentioned as a rule at that time, starting from that time. I mean, it was mentioned frequently, indeed, killing a person. But yeah, so you got my point, I guess. So that's all I want to say in this video. And thanks for watching this video. God knows better. I hope you find this interesting, and you can also check more about the crows and their intelligence, and hope to see you in the next video.